whoever you are, this is a restricted wavelength. Public use of it is illegal.
There's this thing throughout the movie where the Bayside police, these walkie-talkies haven't been modified yet. So anytime somebody's talking on the walkie-talkie, the police can hear everything. So we'll intermittently cut over to the police station where the police are listening in to conversations of 16-year-olds.
And one of the cops is enjoying it way too much. That was concerning.
Yeah, I think I saw you have a note later on, but there's this female officer who is turned on by this revelation.
She's like aroused about hearing the gossip of these teenagers, and I thought, are you a predator?
Yes?
Go to the nearest police station and hand in your transmitters.
Maybe they can't hear you, Si.
Hey, what's poppin', Colonels? What's poppin', Corn Dogs? Benny Noodle, welcome back. It is Just Play It. We are back for another movie. It's time to butter those bikes and pop the wheels because we are heading down under for a nice retro, radical 80s movie flick. I am your host. I'm Capn Pop. I am Mr. Popcorn. I am Mr. Buttersworth. And I'm Mr. Crisp. That's a new one. I'm gonna go with Mr. Crisp. Alongside me is my crunchy buddy, my best friend, the corn dog himself, Mr. Nick Justice.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for the introduction, Mr. Crisp. I'm a fan. As James says, I'm the corn dog, the dog corn dog himself. Excited to be back for another week, another episode with you, pal. And first off, let's start off with some formalities here. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's summertime. It's hot as balls in my duplex right now because I don't have AC, but we're sweating it out. We're getting very sweaty and slick for the summer, and we're in the thick of it, man. It is. I can't stress enough how hot it is in this recording booth right now. I'm just taking it in stride. How are you doing, buddy? What's good? What's new?
I'm doing well. I want to echo the sentiments that, yeah, it is hot. I'm with him over here in Tennessee, so I got a little bit of that humidity as well coming at me, but that's why you have cheap electricity and AC. So I'm keeping cool,
Well, I'm in California, so I don't have AC or cheap electricity, but you know what? I don't have any humidity, so you're a sticky corn dog, and I'm just a hot, dry piece of popcorn. I'm a kernel ready to pop in the pan, known as California. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Before we get to this super retro, super rad movie, we got to get warmed up. We got to pop the corn. Speaking of, we got to roll the dogs, deep fry them corns, get warmed up. And we're going to do that with a quiz. And we really, 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 really want you to come and play along.
That's right, James. It's our trivia game known as Cinematrix. It's a pretty simple concept. It's a grid style quiz, 3 categories on the left side, 3 categories on the top. So you got 9 squares and you get 9 guesses for the squares. The more rare the answer, the higher the points you get. Pretty simple.
And can't use any guesses twice. So we're trying to map this out for a successful 9 out of 9. We're always trying to go perfect. We are on a current streak right now. So A, we want to keep that streak alive. And B, we're always going for the top percentage of players of the day. And our record, as a reminder, is 2%. So Nick, let's see if we can do this. Can you read me? Who are our actors? Are we going to get hosed or are we going to fly with this quiz?
At first glance, I'm feeling pretty good because our actors are Maya Rudolph, Bill Hader, and John Goodman.
All right, perfect. I am very familiar with those 3. Our categories up top are going to be Disney Pixar animated movie, 1-word title, and character name and title. Nick, from 0 to 10, how confident are you feeling on this one?
9 to a 9.5. There might be some holes in there for me, but I think you'll be able to pick me up.
And just like always, you're going to carry us through this quiz. So let's get started here.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we have Maya Rudolph, Disney Pixar animated movie, 1-word title, and character name and title. So I feel like I should know a lot of these, but I'm going to take a minute here to think about this, actually, because I'm blanking on what Pixar movie she's actually in.
So I have one that I think was a really underrated animated film, and I think this is Disney Pixar. I'm almost positive it is.
I will let you know that.
She was in Big Hero 6.
Okay, so is it Disney and Pixar, or is it Disney or Pixar? Because Big Hero 6 is only Disney.
I think it should be both. They're the same company now, so if it's not, I feel like that's misleading. I think it's Disney or Pixar animated movie.
You know what? Since it is misleading, we can try Big Hero 6, and then it's our podcast, it's our rules. We can start over if we get hosed. What do you say?
That sounds perfect to me.
Okay, let's guess it. Okay, so that did work. It's a very popular guess. It's at 47%. But I do know for a fact that Big Hero 6 was not Pixar. So that gives us a clue of how to proceed with this quiz.
Perfect. All right, James, what do you have for Maya Rudolph's one-word title?
I think Bridesmaids? She was in that?
Definitely was. It's going to be a high one.
That would be. That's what I'm trying to think already. Trying to think of something a little bit more specific and obscure.
I have one for character name and title that is also a one-word answer. But do you have anything for character name and title?
Again, I feel like I should know this, and I'm going to do a face palm. I'm going to smack my forehead when I hear it, but I'm just kind of blanking right now. I'm falling underneath the pressure of the quiz music.
The character name and title is a deep cut, but a movie that I think is slept on for comedies. She was in MacGruber.
Okay, so I've never seen MacGruber.
Oh, you're missing out, dude. MacGruber is quietly a top-notch film.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Grown Ups, but that doesn't help with anything. Okay, so I mean, we have answers. So we have Bridesmaids and MacGruber.
I could think of a million TV shows she's been in, and that's what keeps coming to my mind. But the movie side of it is escaping me right now.
Well, we can just throw those in, or we can come back to it.
Let's come back to it. Let's give ourselves some time to think here.
Okay, so we're going to move down to Bill Hader. We have Disney Pixar animated movie, one-word title, and character name and title. What Disney Pixar movie was he in?
He was the husband fish in Finding Dory.
The husband fish.
I don't know the name.
Like Dory's mom or dad?
Yeah, I've seen the movie twice, and I remember hearing the voice and going, "That's Bill Hader."
Okay, I feel like that would be our only guess because I can think of. I feel like I can think of non-Disney animated movies that he's in, but yeah, I think we would probably just want to go with the husband fish.
I'm down with Finding Dory.
Let's do Finding Dory. And that, you know what? That was an awesome guess there, Nick, because that is a 4%. That is a very nice, juicy, rare percentage there. Let's go.
What else was he in? Now I'm curious. Was he in something recent, like Lightyear or something like that?
Maybe. Didn't see that one either.
Neither did I.
So that's just another, like, I'm looking at these names and thinking, oh, I can nail this, but I'm kind of failing right now. So the big one, I'm curious to see what it is. I keep thinking it's Inside Out or something.
It could be.
Could be Toy Story 4. I don't know, like a random character.
Could be. Was he one of those crazy stuffed animals in Toy Story 4 who kept telling those crazy stories about like stabbing?
Well, I know Key and Peele were those two prizes at the fair.
Okay.
I'm thinking, was Bill Hader the creepy dummy in the antique shop, the henchman of the doll?
Could have been.
I don't know. We have one-word title and character name and title. I'm sure I can think of a one-word title, but I immediately have a character name and title. Do you have anything for that one?
I have 2 character name and titles. I'm excited to hear what yours is going to be.
Hot Rod.
Yeah, dude. It was that one or Forgetting Sarah Marshall for me.
I feel like we have to do Hot Rod.
Hot Rod's one of our all-timers, so I think we have to go with Hot Rod.
Oh, it's 20%.
Wow.
People knew that. Wonder what Forgetting Sarah Marshall would have got us. I don't care. No regrets. We love Hot Rod, so we're throwing it in there. One-word title. So I know he was the adult version of Finn Wolfhard in It, but that is technically called It Chapter 2. He was in Trainwreck, right?
Oh, that awful movie with that not funny chick?
And LeBron James.
Yes.
And I think John Cena's in that one too.
Probably.
I think he was in
It sounds like a
Trainwreck,
John
and
Cena movie.
I think that's hey, how dare you? John Cena's amazing.
I didn't say he wasn't. I just said he was probably in it.
Is this an unpopular opinion, or do you think this is popular? I think John Cena is a better actor than The Rock.
Absolutely agree. Did you see Ricky Stenicki?
Oh, I saw Ricky Stenicki.
It was hilarious.
And Peacemaker. And I think he's a lot more, because The Rock just plays The Rock in every single movie. But John Cena's funny and can get emotional, and it works still.
He's legitimately someone I enjoy watching. Yeah.
I thought the best role I saw The Rock in was when he played Bob Stone in Central Intelligence, because he kind of played like did you see that movie?
I love that movie, actually.
He kind of played, it reminded me a lot of Jim Carrey in The Cable Guy, where you're thinking, I want to get away from you. Like, you're kind of psychotic and you're kind of a stalker, but you are coming off like you're super nice. Anyway, sorry for the tangent. One word title, Bill Hader. We got Trainwreck. He's been in hella movies, like Hot Rod, which is not a one-word title.
I think I'm leading Trainwreck.
All right, let's just go. For the sake of time, we're going to go Trainwreck. Twainwreck.
Holy smokes.
Oh, it's
50%.
50%. That's the most popular. There it is.
We're not going to get top percent on this one.
We're going to go perfect. No doubt. But we're not going to go high percentage.
No. All right. Let's go to John Goodman then, and let's see what we can get here. So Disney Pixar animated movie, John Goodman, obviously solely from Monsters, Inc., is what people remember him as. However, he was in another animated movie from Disney.
Oh. And if this is the Disney or Pixar, he was in Emperor's New Groove.
I was thinking Princess and the Frog. It was like La Bouffon or that guy, but I forgot Emperor's New Groove.
He's been in a couple Disney.
Yeah, he's been. I think the Monsters Inc. universe is going to take up a lot of these answers.
And you know what? Remember, the shorts count. So if he was in one of those Monsters Inc. shorts, then that would probably be slept on.
I just don't know the Monsters Inc. shorts. I'd feel much more comfortable going with an Emperor's New Groove or a Princess and the Frog.
Let's go. You want to go The Emperor's New Groove?
I love that movie. I'd love to do that.
Let's do it. That was a pretty decent guess there. 11%. We got Klay Thompson. Although I can't say that anymore because he's number 31 on the Mavs. But
yikes.
Always number 11 in our hearts. All right. One word title and character name and title for John Goodman. Have an answer for character name and title.
I have a one-word title as well. It's a movie I actually recently just rewatched, and that is Flight with Denzel Washington. He's his drug dealer.
I'm not even going to contest that. I think that's a great answer, and I wonder how not thought of that is. So let's go ahead and punch that in.
It's probably pretty thought of.
You think so?
Yep, 23%.
Okay. I mean, again, this is a movie I've never seen, so that caught me by surprise, and I thought that'd be a good answer, but pretty middle of the road there. All right, character name and title.
I think we have an obvious one.
I have 1.5. I think the one is an obvious one. The half would be the Flintstones. Would that count?
Dude, that was my guess. John Goodman, to me, growing up, the only role I ever remember him in was that terrible 1990, like mid-90s live-action Flintstone movie. He was Fred Flintstone, dude.
Would the last name count?
It should.
The obvious one I was going to go with was The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, obviously. I think Flintstones should absolutely count.
I think we should go with the Flintstones. What do you say?
I love it. 11%. Okay.
Oh,
not
just like the
another
Emperor's
Klay Thompson.
Groove.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. John Goodman is treating us well over here. Let's go back to Maya Rudolph and let's clean this puppy up. Not gonna lie, didn't think of anything else that she could have been in, so I believe we might have to go with those original answers.
Yeah, I was hoping the other movies might jog my memory, but they most certainly did not. We're going with Bridesmaids.
Okay, we're going Bridesmaids and we're going MacGruber. I think MacGruber's still a good guess, so let's do it.
I sure hope so. Bridesmaids, 78%. Oh, no.
Yikes. Stripes, dude. All right, well, maybe MacGruber will treat us well.
Let's hope.
That's actually worse than Hot Rod, Flight, Finding Dory, and The Emperor's New Groove.
35%. Wow. But hey, that's still good enough for top 7 players today.
Hey, that's pretty good.
That's not
Like
bad.
you said,
Single digits.
We'll take single digits all day. Okay.
James, let's run through our most popular answers real quick. For Maya Rudolph, animated, which is crazy to me, Big Hero 6 got 47%, but it was not the most popular answer. The most popular was Luca. Bridesmaids, of course, we guessed it, 78%. Of course, it's the most popular. And MacGruber was the most popular character name and title for Maya Rudolph. So we did not do well on that row.
Not big brains there. Let's move down to Bill Hader, most popular for a Disney Pixar animated movie. Okay, so he isn't Inside Out. I thought he was.
Good call, buddy. Yeah.
But I don't think he's any of the feelings. Maybe he's the dad? Because that purple guy I thought was Bill Hader, but I think that's the guy that does Forky, the Forky voice. Most popular for one word title was Trainwreck, so big L there. And we actually dodged a bullet on the character name and title because the most popular actually was Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Gotcha.
So good on us going Hot Rod.
Yeah, not half bad. Not half bad. What year was Inside Out? Oh, he was. He was the voice of Fear. He was the purple guy.
All right, I just looked it up. I'm not tripping because I remember seeing Tony Hale. That's the guy who is the voice of Forky. I remember seeing red carpet photos of the Inside Out 2 premiere, and it said Tony Hale plays Fear. But you're saying Bill Hader played Fear in the original?
Yeah, did they replace him?
I guess.
I don't see any credits for him for Inside Out 2.
Yeah, okay. So he was in the original one. Recasted? Oh no, Bill Hader controversy. What happened? Well, anyway, Nick, what do we got for most popular for Mr. Goodman?
For Mr. Goodman, no surprise across the board from me. Most popular animated Monsters, Inc. One word title was Argo, and character name and title was The Big Lebowski. Holy smokes. Inside Out for Bill Hader was 86%.
Okay, well, look at us going the Fish's Husband, starring Bill Hader.
The Fishy's husband.
We're having hits and we're having misses. So let's see what the rarest answers were. We're going to start with Maya Rudolph. Disney Pixar animated movie Strange Magic. What the hell is that? What kind of DreamWorks
people cheat.
knockoff crap is this?
People cheat.
If you're new to the program, this is the part of the show where Nick says his famous catchphrase, people cheat.
I'm sorry. I'm not buying it.
I don't know what that is. Honestly, this looks like a foreign knockoff of a not even a Disney movie, like a DreamWorks movie. Sorry, shots fired on the foreigners and DreamWorks. Anyway, one word title, rarest answer, Chips. That Dax Shepard and Michael Pena remake of Chips. And character name and title, Maya Rudolph, the rarest is Mr. Pig.
For our boy Bill Hader, I hate seeing this. Disney Pixar is Riley's First Date. And this looks like an Inside Out spinoff short. Yeah.
It's a short. The shorts are killer, dude.
One word title, Dougal. Looks like a terribly CGI'd fuzzy dog.
Like a kid's program quality of CGI.
Yeah. And then character name and title, Belushi. So I guess he was in a biopic
documentary.
Yeah. Of Jim Belushi.
The documentaries piss me off more so than the shorts because there's whatever. Rarest correct answers for John Goodman. Disney animated is Kronk's New Groove. So we were kind of on the right track, but is this a sequel or a short?
I don't recall there being
It's an hour 15. It's an hour 15.
Oh.
So that is a full-blown movie. It is the sequel to The Emperor's New Groove. The one time we didn't do the sequel strat because I didn't even know this one existed.
Yeah, beats me.
One word title, rarest, John Goodman, Burglar. For some reason it looked like Burglar, but I'm just reading through my microphone and on a small font. Burglar. And character name and title, Alabama Moon. All right. There better be
Doesn't
a
sound
character,
like a
in
character.
that movie named Alabama Moon. And hopefully they're a sailor. All right. Well, that was interesting. But hey, you know what, Nick? We went perfect and we're keeping our streak alive. We were top 7 of the day. I'm going to walk away, brushing my hands off, happy with that. What do you say?
Head held high, my friend. Head held high.
Now that we are popped and we are rolled, let's get to this week's movie. Nick, we watched a 1983 movie from Australia called BMX Bandits. And this is a movie directed by Brian Trenchard Smith. Is that how you say that?
Phonetically, yeah.
I'm going phonetic as fuck over here. So, fun fact, he also directed Leprechaun 4 in space. And the last thing he directed in his career, according to IMDb, was 2014's Drive Hard with John Cusack. Nick, do you remember that movie?
I want to say I do, but I might not. I mean, I know for a fact I've never
It looks
seen
like
it.
a parody of an action movie, but it's a real movie. And I don't know if it's tongue in cheek or if it's sincere. I don't know.
Yeah, so maybe this was their version of Walk Hard.
I think so.
Drive Hard.
I will
right?
drive.
Doing the parody of it.
Drive Hard sounds pretty parody-ish. But Nick, despite being a very obscure foreign movie from the 80s, we do have a very recognizable actor in this movie, and that's going to be Nicole Kidman. I'm going to say this movie stars Nicole Kidman because she is the most successful to this day compared to everyone else in this movie, because it does star 3 kids, one of them being Kidman, the other 2 being James Lugton and Angelo DeAngelo. No, I did not stutter. That was his name.
That's a power move name. Angelo DeAngelo.
What's your name? Angelo DeAngelo? Okay.
So that's got to be a stage name, right? You had to choose that.
No idea. But I do know that this is the first acting credit for both these guys. And for Angelo DeAngelo, his profile pic on IMDb is literally just a screenshot from this movie, and it doesn't even have his face in it. It's actually just Nicole Kidman's character, and his fro and forehead is cut off on the side.
Yikes.
Yeah. Adults in this movie are going to be, it's going to be a guy named David Argue, as in you're having an argument with somebody, and John Lay. Nick, what are we looking at for dollar signs? Australian dollars, I might add.
Yeah, Australian dollars. Well, we have an estimated budget of around 1 million. Everybody can agree it's in that 1 million range, maybe a touch above or touch below. And then our box office, and I think this was only released in the Australia and the UK, is also at 1 million. I saw anywhere from 125,000 to 1 million. So we'll give them the top end. We'll say they made their money back at 1 million.
When I was looking this up, I kept reading on websites that the director on a DVD commentary or some sort of audio commentary said that it grossed $1 million. So we're just going to go with that. But I do love on IMDb, it does say gross worldwide is $328. I think it got a couple more dollars than that.
Yeah, we'll give it the $1 million budget, $1 million box office.
It's going to break even here.
Yeah, we'll give them that. So this movie actually was nominated for 4 Australian Film Institute awards.
Oh my God, I've never heard of that.
Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Supporting Actor for our boy David Argue.
Hell yeah.
The Best Editing, and the Best Sound. Unfortunately, those were all nominations, 0 wins for the BMX Bandits.
Do you think David argued with the Institute after he didn't win? Got him. No, I've never heard of David Argue, but that's how it goes when we have these Australian movies. It's a lot of names that we don't recognize, but a couple that we do. And speaking of Australian ties, this movie has a lot of ties to Mad Max, which was our franchise of the year last year, as far as the crew goes and the cast, because John Lay, who's one of our adult actors in this movie, he plays a guy named Mustache. He actually played Charlie in the original Mad Max. And Nick, I know you're thinking, oh, I remember Charlie. It's okay if you don't. He was remember in the very beginning of Mad Max, the Knight Rider was going crazy, doing car chases, and the maximum police force, whatever the hell they were called, were chasing them down.
Mm-hmm.
the first two cops, one is named Roop and one's named Charlie. It's those bumbling duo in the car that Charlie's like, I'm driving. And Roop says, move over. I want to drive. And then they crash. And I think at some point he catches some shrapnel to his neck and he has to talk through a voice box.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, so that's Mustache in this film.
That's actually really funny because in this movie, he's always trying to drive and he wants to drive the car.
So they have some carryover. Maybe it's a personal inside joke. Maybe his wife or husband or whatever never lets him drive. He's always just trying
David
to drive.
Archie drive.
So John Seal, I did recognize his name because I shouted him out in our Fury Road episode when I said that George Miller brought Seal out of retirement. He hadn't shot a movie for 5 years, and then he was the cinematographer of Fury Road. He's the cinematographer on this movie, and he was also the DP cinematographer on Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Dead Poets Society, Rain Man, The Perfect Storm, and Spanglish, of all things, amongst many, many, many others. Rounding out our Mad Max tie-ins, we got Guy Norris. He's playing Heavy number 2. He's one of the bank robbers in the beginning. And he actually got his start, according to IMDb. First project he worked on was Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, where he not only played Bear Claw Mohawk, one of Lord Humongous's guys, but he also did the stunts on Road Warrior, progressed his career into a stunt coordinator on many, many movies, including both of George Miller's Happy Feet 2 and Babe, Pig in the City, as well as both James Gunn's The Suicide Squad and Scooby-Doo. And he worked in the stunts department of previous Just Play It movies that we've watched, including Stealth, Fury Road, and Furiosa. And he's going to be tied to the upcoming Mad Max The Wasteland sequel. We're in Australia, so obviously we got a lot of Australian crew members here, but it's nice to see that we have a lot of connectivity between major movies. Some of these guys have found a lot of big success after this very little known homegrown movie known as BMX Bandits.
Yeah. Do you think the Australian filmmaking world is just a small world? I'd have to imagine it's a pretty tight knit group. You're going to see, I'd imagine if you went through and watched a lot of 80s Australian movies and TV, you'd probably get a huge amount of carryover, right?
I think so. And you know what? It's really not that different from Hollywood. I do think Hollywood is a small circle. You'd work on shows and you'd say, oh, I worked on the show with this guy, or, oh, my dad actually worked on this show, or my uncle worked on the show with so-and-so. How's he doing? So I think it is just a small world after all, wherever you are. I know we have a big film department in Atlanta these days. There's New York crews, there's Chicago crews. So they are expanding. So that circle is getting bigger. But I would agree, Nick. I think Australia probably has a tight-knit crew, couple go-tos, and then that's it.
That's what I was thinking. All right, James, what do you say we hit this log line and we get into plot talk?
Let's hit it, baby. Read it to me. I want to know what this movie's about.
A trio of teen BMX enthusiasts become entangled with a group of bank robbers after discovering their cache of walkie-talkies.
All right. Well, That sounds pretty intriguing to me. I see 1983 in parentheses next to the title. I'm thinking I'm in. What do you say we just play it? See what I did there?
Yeah. Surprised we haven't done that before.
And let's talk about it in Plot Talk.
Plot Talk.
All right, so you said 1983. The beginning of this movie is just synth city. It's like a mix of Leonard and the Wraith.
Super
I mean, we are just in full synth mode throughout this film. And I got to tell you, I'm here for it. I'm into it.
What was the movie that had the music guy that was a professional synthist or synthesizerist?
I think so. He was like Michael Jackson's synth guy.
Do you remember his name?
No, I don't
remember his name.
I looked.
Sorry, guy.
Is this a synth guy I may know of? But he had no notable credits, unfortunately.
Is this the synth guy?
I don't know how many synth guys there are, but yeah.
Yeah, very, very synthy. And I thought it was funny. There was actually a report card or something in the beginning that said this movie is rated PG or PG-13 from the British Film Board, and it's approved. And I thought, oh, that was interesting. We don't usually get that in front of movies. We get that in front of trailers. I thought it was funny they had to show their credentials before they presented their story to us. So
silly Brits.
But speaking of John Seal, director of photography, the cinematographer, I think he's straight cooking with this super cheesy opening scene where they're gearing up and they're throwing on the gloves and they're PJ puts on a helmet and makes sure to swivel his head so you can see the sponsors on the side. It seems like very slow and corny, but I honestly liked all of the shots that Seal was throwing at me. I liked the underneath the bike shots and the flipping the pedal. I'm pretty sure they had the bikes on plexiglass and the camera was down below. And I thought, okay, all right, you're a recognizable name to me, and I think you're doing a good job with the cinematography here. I think the editing is a little slow, but I'm in it with the synth music. It's getting real cheesy, and I'm ready to have a good time.
I thought this entire movie had pretty good cinematography, and I keep remembering this is only on $1 million budget, and I was pretty impressed, honestly, with the editing and the cinematography of it. There's a few scenes we'll call out as we get to them, but I was a fan.
Yeah.
We open up on a bank robbery in Sydney with a bunch of dudes wearing a pig mask. So this is back when, like, Point Break, if you're going to go pull off a bank heist, you need to have a mask on and not just, a shirt over your face. We're talking a iconic mask. So these guys wear pig masks. Boom, successful robbery, and they have another robbery lined up. There's a guy named The Boss in this movie, and he lets his crew know he has a robbery lined up worth $1.5 million. And 1983, $1.5 million, we're talking, that's shoot a movie in 1983 kind of money.
That's the budget of this movie.
That's good stuff.
And The Return, allegedly. We're thinking these guys are super bad and they're intimidating and they're going to shoot people. But we'll learn later that they're a little bit stoogey, a little bit bumbly-fumbly on the shenanigans come down the road. But riding their bikes on this road are two, Nick, I see you wrote down here, two super Aussie BMXers. So this is PJ and Goose. PJ is our boy Angelo D'Angelo. No, I didn't stutter. And Goose is James Lugton. First-time actors, young kids, teenagers. There are BMXers gearing up in the beginning, doing sick tricks. They're going to actually run into Nicole Kidman, who plays Judy. Judy is working at a grocery store. She's collecting shopping carts.
Trolleys, as they call them over there.
There's a character simply named The Creep, and he's played by Brian Sloman. And Nick, I don't know if you looked at his IMDb, but this is the only job he's ever had, according to IMDb.
This was it for him.
So he's actually heckling Judy, Nicole Kidman, and kind of pushes the carts. And the store manager takes note of this. He's witnessing his employee get heckled and kind of angrily marches over. And I thought, okay, cool, some adult authority. But then he starts berating Judy, saying, "What are you doing? Quit messing around. Get back to work." Instantaneously, Nick, I thought, this guy might be the biggest piece of shit off the rip. Spoilers. Maybe.
He's up there.
We'll see by the end of this plot talk. But I thought, you literally saw the creep heckling your employee and you go to the creep's defense? Okay, you sexist mailman shorts and socks wearing bastard.
I mean, he's a creep.
Yeah, he's the real creep. But the credits creep, he shoves the carts towards the parking lot and it just smashes straight into PJ and Goose and they crash and their bikes are broken. And Judy's like, "Oh shit, my bad. Oh, by the way, I'm fired."
It's a tough look for Judy. But this is a little serendipity because Judy, the reason she's working her job is because she wants a BMX bike. So she wants to be part of this BMX crew. So all of a sudden she gets her carts crash into two BMXers and it's almost as if things are meant to be.
And they're an instant trio from there on out.
Yeah. Now this Nicole Kidman's pretty young. I think she was 16 at the time the movie came out. And PJ and
I
Goose,
think they're all 16.
Yeah, are also pretty young at 16. So I was actually reading up on this. The movie took a long time to make because of the child labor laws. And you couldn't have them working these long hours. You'd have normal actors working. So I think it took about 41 days to shoot, which they were saying it probably should have been half of that. But you can't just grind these kids.
Good for them. Good for the crew. Get a little nice, easy, short day, hopefully.
Yeah. Now, this movie's called BMX Bandits, but our heroes' bikes have been destroyed. So we need to solve that. So they're going to go out in search of things to sell so that they can get their bikes fixed, get the parts and all that. And we got to get Judy her own bike. We got to get her first bike.
In Australian dollars, that's crazy.
As luck would have it, James, they just stumble upon the walkie-talkies of our robbers from our opening scene.
Yeah, and the boss in his $1.5 million bank heist spiel, he did say, we're going to get away with it with these walkie-talkies. They allow us to hear law enforcement, but they can't hear us. The cash is at the usual drop spot. We need the rest of those walkie-talkies to be modified so that they cannot hear us and we can hear them. As the BMX Bandit trio is, what are they looking for, mussels or clams on buoys or something to sell? They're going to sell mussels to people?
I didn't quite get the whole explanation of the plan.
Whatever. They're looking for mussels or clams or something, and then they pull up this box that's hidden underwater full of walkie-talkies, which I feel like the walkie-talkies would have been waterlogged and destroyed, but that's all good. So they stumble upon it and they're thinking, oh, sick, walkie-talkies. We could just sell this. This isn't suspicious at all. Meanwhile, we have Whitey and Mustache. So this is our adult actors of David Argue and John Lay. They get into the speedboat. Nick, this speedboat is a hell of a speedboat. Did you see
Quite
this?
the speedboat. I did.
It's big. It's red. It has a huge motor on it. There was when people get like airbrush murals on their Chevy Silverados on the hood.
Mm-hmm.
This airbrush mural on the boat is like a Native American stabbing a skull on the ground with a sword. And there's also an eagle and a moon on it. And I thought, this is intense. Mustache, funny enough, is driving the boat. And it's a thing where he's struggling to, well, actually, he is the driver in this movie. David Argue is the one that wants to drive, but he sucks at it. So he's driving the boat and he gasses it and makes Whitey, David Argue, eat shit. And it looked like it was definitely real. It wasn't a stunt person. Looked like it actually hurt. But these guys, at the beginning bank robbery scene, you're thinking, oh no, they're killers and they're psychotic. And then at this boat scene, this is where we're going to learn that they are actually very, very goofy and kind of uncoordinated.
Yeah, there are, comedic relief. They remind me a lot of the henchmen from Flubber.
Yep. Ted Levine and Clancy Brown.
So like you said, they're goofy. They're klutzes. They're constantly arguing. It's a funny relationship.
They're David arguing.
I actually enjoy the characters of Mustache and Whitey a lot. I think they're very fun.
So they recognize the walkie-talkie cash has been stolen, and they passed the trio of kids in the boat. And Whitey puts this together hella quick. He says, those kids took it. And they already know what's up, and they're going to go pursue those kids.
But they don't get the kids yet. And Judy, PJ, and Goose are selling the walkie-talkies. This part actually made me legitimately laugh out loud. They're selling a walkie-talkie to the creep, and they're like, $40. Creep just goes, $40? Just, I don't know. His voice, whatever this kid did, he should have had another role because he killed the creep. It's also tough casting to say, yeah, you're going to play this character named the creep.
You're ugly, fat, and annoying.
That's tough.
Deal with it.
Now, the town we're in is Bayside, I guess, because we have the Bayside police. And there's this thing throughout the movie where the Bayside police, these walkie-talkies haven't been modified yet. So anytime somebody's talking on the walkie-talkie, the police can hear everything. So we'll intermittently cut over to the police station where the police are listening in to conversations of 16-year-olds.
And one of the cops is enjoying it way too much. That was concerning.
Yeah, I think I saw you have a note later on, but there's this female officer who is turned on by this revelation.
She's like aroused about hearing the gossip of these teenagers. And I thought, are you a predator?
Yes. So, our robbers know who has the box of walkie-talkies, and so they're going to hunt him down. The first time they encounter each other, it is at night, and they're getting followed by Whitey and Mustache. And of course, because it's 1983 and we need a good place to have a chase scene, there's a cemetery right there. So we're going to dip into the cemetery and we're going to go ahead and have a very Scooby-Doo-esque cat and mouse game running around in the cemetery.
Well, speaking of Scooby-Doo-esque, Goose has a big Scooby-Doo-ass idea and says, let's split up, because they're getting pursued by Whitey and Mustache, who are wearing monster masks. So they swapped out the pig. They said I think his Mustache, he said, I can't go into a cemetery with a pig mask on, but a goblin mask is appropriate, I guess. So that's we're
going to go formal.
That's for the occasion. Also, it's very spooky out because it's nighttime, and I believe it starts raining. There's some thunder involved. So yes, like you said, there's a lot of big Scooby-Doo energy here, where they're missing each other by that much, and they're hiding behind gravestones. So Judy ends up falling into a grave, and one of the goons is right above her and does not notice her at all. Bro is literally just standing right over her, an open grave right below him, and doesn't even bother to look down, knowing that she ran this way.
Classic henchman move.
Super goony, super goofy. Goose ends up getting into that open grave as well, and he has a little moment with Judy, and it sounds like he has the hots for her, and was saying, I'm gonna kiss you. So he does an open eye kiss, Nick. It was very unsettling. And then he goes for it again, and she kind of pulls away, and I thought, wow, he's going for it.
No riz. He's got no riz. But he'll always get to say he kissed Nicole Kidman, so good for him.
Way to go, James Lugton.
Now, while they're having their talk, the walkie-talkie is on, so PJ can hear everything. He thinks it's funny. But James, this is where we were talking about with the cops. The cops are listening to this, and this oddly turned on female who's rubbing the shoulders of the one cop who's like and biting his ear, the guy who's actually listening to the radio. She just goes, Goose, PJ, Powderpuff, because they call Judy Powderpuff. That's her code name. She goes, that's BMX talk. What are you talking about? What do you mean that's BMX talk?
When I looked this up, and one of it was common sense, the other one was looking it up. So I thought, okay, Goose, we know that, I think Goose rides a mongoose bike.
Okay.
And I said, okay, all right, that's related. Powderpuff, I had to look up, and I found this, it said, I think it's a model of a bike. So there's something called a Columbia Powderpuff. At least there's one bike on eBay or something that's being sold like that. So I thought, okay, that's very specific and not mentioned in the movie at all. PJ, I don't know, because PJs in my world is one, pajamas, and if I was a rich person, it'd be private jet. But I don't know how PJ relates to BMX talk.
Yeah, me neither. I'm Googling right now, PJ BMX bike.
Trust me, I already did this.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm thinking my Googling skills would change that what got pulled up when typing that in.
Well, that horny lady cop is hella turned on by overhearing the kids talk about crushes and kisses, and she actually bites her coworker's ear and mentions to the sergeant that they're talking about BMX stuff and we need to be looking for kids on bikes. While this walkie is hot, it's live, PJ can kind of hear this. We get this really stupid antenna gag where does he extend it? Or no, he just pulls the walkie-talkie up to his face, and one of the goons is right behind him, and the antenna stabs him in the eye. And it's just very, very, very goofy.
We do end up, the chase scene through the cemetery plays out. I actually really liked the chase scene. You were mentioning the cinematography. They do a lot of long shots in this. So there's even one shot, like a dolly shot from the outside of the cemetery, where they're just tracking left to right, watching everyone run through the cemetery, past the gravestones. I thought it was decent. I'm enjoying this. I think they're, like you said, Seal was cooking with what he was doing.
He's got this.
But we do get away, and the following day, morning comes, and the gang's going to get their bike back, and we're going to get Judy her very first bike. And Judy hops on her BMX bike and just balls out.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman's male stunt double is going to work here with these sick ass tricks. And she's pulling out every trick in the book. Nick, she's hot dogging out there.
Exactly.
They didn't waste any money not showing every single BMX trick in the book.
Just an absolute professional. And it was obviously some guy just stunt doubled in there.
So it's an 18-year-old kid in a wig because he had the most similar build to Nicole Kidman, and they couldn't find any females that could do it. Shocker. It's some dude in a wig.
It's just a dude in a wig. It's always a dude in a wig. Well, Judy is going to be going to get a second walkie-talkie for the creep, so she's got to go back to where they stashed the walkie-talkies, and
they're rolling
it's out
in
at
the
this
walkie-talkie dough, so they got to get their stock.
So they're black market walkie dealers. There's a funny scene here. Whitey and Mustache catch up to her at the dock, and they pretend to be the cops, eventually get more hostile, pull out a knife. She has the radio on, trying to get PJ and Goose's attention. However, the radio frequency is also being picked up by a crane operator outside of the docks. I enjoyed this. Scene. So this crane operator is carrying something heavy, like a big hunk of metal, and he's turning the crane, and all of a sudden over the radio he hears "drop it" from Judy, talking about the guy with the knife, like, please drop it.
The construction foreman says, when I say now, do it. And then I think it's Whitey that says, give us the walkies now. What's going to happen?
He drops this giant piece of metal. I think that's what it was, like a big slab of metal.
It's like a huge beam or something.
Onto a car, and the car just explodes.
Huge explosion.
Massive explosion. Like Gastown in Road Warrior. Explosion.
I thought about that. Gastown was way bigger, but it was very big for a single car, for sure.
It was way bigger than any single car should ever explode. And then it also has some other things where he ends up knocking down a building. It's just this sort of fun.
More walkie-talkie gags.
Just classic walkie-talkie gags.
Since everybody can hear them on the walkie-talkies, this also includes PJ and Goose, who decipher that Judy's in trouble. So they head straight to the marina. Judy's kind of handling her own. She's throwing some blows, throwing some punches, kind of makes a mini escape for herself. Nick, I gotta say, why are Whitey and Mustache running like straight cartoon characters at the marina?
Yeah, they pretty much are a couple of cartoon characters.
They're just a couple of characters, those two. PJ and Goose do show up, assist in the rescue of Judy, kind of do a lame Last Crusade jousting move on Whitey, and he just voluntarily jumps in the water. And I think
Let me just say this.
Goose,
Let me say this. If a kid was riding his bike at me with what looked like a PVC pipe to joust me with on a 3-foot wide marina dock, I'd win. I feel pretty confident I'd win that confrontation.
Not Whitey.
No, Whitey didn't even try. He just jumped out into the water, and he's in the water, and they start throwing wooden crates at these guys in the water.
Oh yeah, all of them. They start hooking crates and hitting their heads with it. I thought, geez, okay.
You might kill a guy here. And then this kicks off a very large chase, like a Scooby-Doo-esque chase scene through Sydney or Baytown or whatever it is.
IRL, but this was shot in the town of Manly. And I think it does take place in there because that last scene, it says the Manly BMX track or whatever. And I thought, that's weird. Like, how sexist of you. But it's the name of the town. Manly.
No, it's just a Manly BMX track.
It's the Manly track. You gotta be manly.
Yeah.
Well, Judy's kind of the most manly out of all of them because she has a male stunt double and she's punching people out, throwing crates at bitches.
Yeah.
So Nick, this chase. Go ahead.
I want to say this, and then I'm going to let you cook because I know you have a lot to say about this chase and you love chase scenes. But I want to throw my 2 cents in here. I was pretty impressed with this chase scene for $1 million budget. And James, your turn to cook. Tell me about this chase.
This chase, Nick, minute 54, 10 seconds. This is going to begin a 15-minute chase scene that takes place in the streets, in a water park, at a rugby game, the mall, an abandoned hangar, a construction zone. They're pulling out everything on this one, Nick. we have synthy chase music, as we aforementioned. The synth music is just going to town here. John Seal is getting all the good shots. The professional BMX stunt riders are taking BMX bikes where they're not supposed to be and doing precarious things off ramps and jumps and whatnot. But my favorite part is when they get to the water park, because we've had this synthy action chase music, and PJ, Goose, and Judy decide, oh, we're going to cut through the water park because Whitey and Mustache are in the car chasing them down. And they think we're going to go through the water park and we're going to go down the water slides. And I know everyone's thinking, but James, what about their bikes? Well, don't worry. This water slide tube is massive, and they can just hold their bikes and take it with them as they go down this water slide. But Nick, my favorite part about this scene was that we had synthy music this entire time. And as soon as we get in the water slide, the music cuts out and we just get this super elongated, long water whoosh sound effects for, it felt like 45 seconds.
It was jarring. The cutting of the music was jarring.
It felt like it was a comedic choice, but I don't think it was.
No.
But it was funny to me because of how just and then they get in the water, it's just
and then the shit cuts back in.
And then they it was kind of like a meditative moment in the movie. And then they get back on their bikes. Mustache gets back to the car. And then the synth music is back. We're back in reality. And I got to say, Whitey and Mustache have some insane endurance because they've been chasing these kids on bikes for quite a while. They just started on foot by the time they get to the mall. Every time they reset a scene, their position resets. They end the scene about 100 feet behind them. And then as soon as we cut to the next segment, they're 10 feet behind them. So they are superhuman, or something's not adding up in the editing room.
You know how hard it is to chase after people on bikes? They're going so fast.
There's some resilient sons of bitches. Hour, 9 minutes, 36 seconds. The chase is finally over with the bandits hiding out in a warehouse and the goons with their totaled, wrecked ass car. I looked at my watch and said, is this chase still going? Jeez.
Yeah, it went on forever.
It started at the marina.
My issue is the car throughout the chase is hitting things, running into things, and the next time you see the car, there's not a dent on it. We'll see in a following scene, because I don't know what order they did the chase scene in, so who knows. But the next time we see the car after this scene, it's going to be beat to shit. So I don't know what happened between then and now. I want to point out a funny running gag that I mentioned at the beginning of this, which is Whitey always wanting to drive. And that pretty much happens towards the end of this chase. So they get out of the car because they're going to chase the kids down the beach. But Whitey sees the keys in the ignition and he throws off the whole chase because he has this impulse to get into the car. And then Mustache has to jump in through the sunroof and stop him from doing it. Also, when they were in the warehouse doing the donut scenes.
Yeah, that felt like it lasted 5 minutes.
It lasted a long time. Like they were really showing off. They were in their bag.
It seemed like I think they filmed every single donut.
The car's just drifting around in circles
of the car. And they thought, well, let's just put all of it in because we filmed it.
Yeah. And the kids are flying in like a V formation together the whole time, dipping and dodging and ducking. But Whitey is just leaning out of the sunroof while all the car's doing all these stunts. He's like trying to grab at him, like, yeah. I'm like, what are we doing?
So goofy.
Finally, the cops come back into play, and our gang does get arrested and brought into police custody, but it's not a big deal because the cops are really cool about it. It's like, well, you promise not to do it again? They're like, yeah. Like, okay.
Yeah, just a slap on the wrist and that's it.
But he mentions that, all the property damage is going to cost money, but you're in luck because bringing these robbers in has a big bounty on it. So, you can help us bring the robbers in. And then PJ says, well, I have an idea. And he goes, I don't want to hear it. Get out of here. I thought we were just talking about helping catch the robbers.
I were trying to devise a plan. Yeah, no, they brush off the kid.
And then they, quote unquote, escape the police custody, but the cops basically just told him to go sit outside until they could get him a ride. So they just walked out of the police station. All right.
Whatever.
But they are now going to get this bounty money. And to do that, they're going to have an army of 100 BMX kids at least.
Minimum.
Would you say minimum?
I was going to say 150 maybe.
Easily. 15 minutes left in the movie, by the way, of runtime with credits. I marked that down. But in the meantime, the boss, Whitey and Mustache,
they're trying to bait the robbers with the cache of walkie-talkies, the case, the box that it came in, and then they just rolled up on the kids unexpectedly, took the box of walkies and Judy as a bonus kidnapping, which is always fun.
So Judy's been a hostage a lot in this movie, and it will happen one more time. Don't you worry. Now, James, I want to call out this next part. They do find the robbers through coordinating on the walkie-talkies, but you called out at an hour, 17 minutes, and 40 seconds here. And thanks for the timestamp. You called out the ADR walkie-talkie kid.
Did you notice
Sounds like
this?
an adult voice. I did. Because they show his face. They show the kid's face. He looks 14, and you just get...
It looks 12.
Oi, PJ.
Unit 1 to base. Unit 1 to base.
Come in, Unit 1.
Goose, I've got him in sight now. They're heading north along the coast road.
I got eyes on him.
Boy, they're going down the road right over here. They're heading towards the factory section. He's like 10 years old.
What?
And I thought, that doesn't look like it belongs to you, kid. By that, I mean that voice. A super obvious ADR work. So that's a telltale sign of $1 million budget movie, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of walkie-talkies and coordination and the bandits, they do figure out they're going to this dead-end part of town where it's like warehouses or factories or some industrial area or something. And Goose on the walkie-talkie says, all units converge, but wait for us. Stay out of sight. And what do all units do? They roll down the street as a giant horde of 150 kids with vibrant 1980 colored clothing on.
I'd be frightened.
They're out of sight for sure.
I would be absolutely shitting my pants if I saw 150 kids on bikes running at me, ambushing me, and their weapon of choice is a packet of all-purpose flour that they're going to throw at you.
And by all purpose, we mean it can also be used as a weapon.
Yeah. So the boss, Whitey, and Mustache get away in a garbage truck. Is it? Or
I think it was just a box truck.
But don't worry, we got PJ and Goose to the rescue. Again, they do end up crashing the truck, but the police eventually do arrest the boss, Whitey, and Mustache.
Nick, I want to point something out here. The final lines of dialogue are very anticlimactic. Hour 25, 22 seconds. We have our very last line of our main kids that we've been following, and it's Judy speaking it. She says, speaking about Goose and PJ coming aboard the truck, she says, I knew it. I told you so. You're beaten now. That's the last spoken line of the main characters. And she's just talking to the goons about how PJ and Goose are now on the truck.
Unsatisfying.
A minute later, hour 26 and 40 seconds, we have the very last line of the movie, which is spoken by the boss. And he says, shut up, they're up there, they're on here. That's the final line of the movie. And the rest of the movie is carried out by music. And we're going to hit the credits at an hour 28, 43 seconds. So I just want to point that out. Thought it was interesting. Interesting creative choice. It kind of seemed like they ran out of time or something. Like when you run out of space on a paper and your sentence kind of trails off, you're just like, all right, well, that's that.
Incomplete thought.
We end on music and action. The bad guys have been beaten by flour and by foam because they run into this foam fertilizer demonstration.
I didn't quite understand that part.
Is this an 80s thing or is this still around? I don't know.
Is this an Australian thing? I don't know.
But anyway, we got a brand new BMX track for the Manly town, for the Manly folks of Manly. And the BMX Bandits are here during the credits, and they win a race or win a trick show. They sweep the main awards. They are the big heroes of the day, with no spoken dialogue, of course. And that is BMX Bandits. Bandits.
Hey!
Roll credits, directed by Brian Trenchard Smith. I totally know that guy. All right, Nick, do you have any nitpicks?
Nitpicks.
Brought it up in plot talk, but Mustache's car, man, when they were driving through the chase scene, should have had a lot more damage. Also through the chase scene, like you were saying, the resetting of positions throughout the chase.
It happened too much.
And not just that. Like half the chase they're in a car, half the chase they're on foot. So we don't see them go from foot to car, but they get out of the car and they run maybe 200 yards. And then all of a sudden they get back in their car and they're back on their trail. These guys are like master trackers.
They did a circuit at the mall. They just did a lap and then got back in the car.
Yeah, but once the bikes get too far away, did they go, all right, back to the car, sprint back to the car, get in the car, circle back around? It should have been a lot easier to lose them if that was the situation.
I'll say it again. They're resilient as hell.
Yeah, they get an A for effort for a henchman.
I can see why the boss hired them. My nitpick is a little bit too many chase gags. And what I mean by this is people carrying precarious objects and the bad guys get in the way and they run into it, whether it be a sign, whether it be a mattress. In the beginning, PJ and Goose they get ran off the road and they hit some guy who has this foam or soft human dummy. So he hits a ramp, swoops the dummy away from him, and there's this great ADR line. And the guy just says, "My dummy!" like the rugby, running into the rugby thing, running into the lady at the bookstore, running into a display case outside the mall. It was a little bit too much. Oh no, we're gonna crash into this thing and cause mayhem. They did it too often to fill the gaps in this movie.
How about the creep following them through some of the chase because he had his ice cream stolen and then he's running into things and knocking things around?
Yeah, he's actually the specific person who runs into the mattress. When they go through a different construction site, he falls into a patch of dirt. And it just kind of got a little bit tired for me.
15 minutes is a long time for a chase scene, even for a high budget movie. So by comparison, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade had a very long opening chase scene, right? Across the trains and the train cars. And that chase had a purpose. This one just didn't seem to have a purpose. They were just showing off, hey, this would be cool. This would be a fun part of a chase scene. This would be
fill in the gaps.
Which, again, to be fair to them, it was entertaining. At no point was the chase scene poorly done. It was just too much.
Tad too long. I'm going to ask you this. Do you have any talking points? Because I was struggling to think of some, because there's not really a whole lot to this movie. There's not a whole lot of story. There's not a whole lot of character development. It's really just, here's some BMX sequences and shenanigans.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have two, and they're not so much talking points, but maybe things I wanted to throw out there and get your thoughts on. So the first part of this is the sort of classic, I would call it sarcastic Aussie comedy. You know, from the Australian people I know and I've met, it's a very dry, sarcastic humor, a lot of quick zingers. Running things like the police hearing everything on the radios, Whitey and Mustache's relationship. Like you said, it was very cartoony. They're running like cartoon characters. And I want to read you this quote from our boy Trenchard Smith. So he said, "I wanted to capture the spirit of the Ealing comedies and British films of the 50s and 60s that were clearly aimed at children and delivered action and fun in a largely cartoonish way. If you look at the basic premise of the plot, the crooks clearly want to or intend to kill the children at some point. So how do you disguise that and make that palatable to an audience of kids and parents? You make the crooks buffoonish, the gang that couldn't shoot straight. So that takes the curse off the underlying purpose. I wanted to say to you, at points we were saying it's very cartoony, it's Scooby-Doo-esque, it's silly, but do you give this movie some credit, hearing what Trenchard Smith said, of doing what it set out to do? Because it was like goofy in an entertaining way for kids.
I see we did the same research because I did read that same exact quote, and because I wanted to kind of get into the minds of the filmmakers here and just see like, why was this movie made? How was it made? I think as far as the Australian style of humor, that dry, sarcastic sense of humor, that's right up my alley. Love that type of humor. I would even go to say it's close to British style humor.
Very, yeah.
So what's the difference between British humor and Australian humor? Is just one rocking a boomerang, the other one's rocking beans? What's going on?
I think British humor is a little more pretentious.
Can I generalize that much? Because I think American humor, if you were to say American humor, maybe a foreigner might say, oh, it's this, but I feel like there's just so many different levels and types of comedy in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
So are we generalizing, or is it kind of just like a main language of comedy when it comes to Australia versus Britain versus America?
No, I would definitely categorize Aussie and British humor closer to each other in that dry sense.
And it's a very similar delivery and vibe and style of comedy. Mm-hmm. Whereas I feel like American comedy can be very variable. It can be dry, it can be subdued, like The Office. It can be insane, goofy, and stupid, like Dodgeball. And it could be highly sarcastic and provocative, like South Park. So I think it's hard to generalize countries' types of countries' treatment of comedies. But I think since we don't live in Australia or Britain, and that's our main exposure is these kind of mainstream deliveries of comedy, I do think they are sarcastic, they are dry. And I love that. That's kind of my style of personal comedy that I live with every single day of my life. I am very sarcastic. I'm very dry with people. And the fun part is like, did you pick up that I was being sarcastic, or are you just thinking this is how I am? So I did appreciate the type of humor. And then as far as that quote that Trenchard Smith said, yeah, this movie kind of has to work like a goofy silent film. Mr. Magoo, Three Stooges, clumsy bad guys. It really does need to have that be a trait of the murderous bank robbers, because otherwise this is an insane drama with a lot of violence. So they do need to be very stupid so that it works for a family crowd, a kids crowd. And if that's their mission, I think they did a good job, because like I said, just even the style, I think David Argue and John Lay did a great job of delivering that, because they are doing a lot of physical comedy. They're falling down, they're taking hits, and I did find it enjoyable. I think the gags and the amount of things the mechanics they had of them slipping up got a little bit repetitive, but I think the actors did their job as far as delivering that silly silent film style type of shenanigans.
Yeah, I agree with exactly with your sentiment. I think it delivered. Was it too much sometimes? Yeah. Was it repetitive sometimes?
It kind of seemed like it was a one trick pony at times.
Right.
They'd have to have the contrast of the Three Stooges treatment versus this is the 1980s and we're cool and we're cutting edge with BMX stunts. So I think there was that contrast of this is all spectacle and we know we're not delivering any substance of story, but this is just supposed to be a fun ride.
Yeah. And that, because when I watch a movie like this, I don't do any research beforehand. I don't know the intentions of the director or the story. So I'm thinking to myself as I'm watching this, is this director trying to make an action film has comedy to it, or is this a comedic film that has action in it? And that's a huge difference, right? Were you trying to be serious and cool and actiony and it just came out funny because it was bad? Or were you trying to be funny and goofy the whole time and you threw in some big chase scenes? And it's the latter from what, Trenchard Smith is saying. So in that aspect, yeah, job well done. My last talking point, James, and this is just may warrant a response from you, may not. Just wanted to call this out because you had mentioned it at the beginning of the podcast, which is all the crossover we have with Mad Max. And I'd asked you, do you think Australia is a small world for film? But what I wanted to say is I appreciate that a country like Australia, because there's a lot of countries out there who just lean on other countries for entertainment, whether it's music or movies or shows, right? Obviously, they lean on the United States the most, and then usually Britain next. But Australia really went out there and said, no, man, we have our own culture of films. And so I appreciate that out of the Australians. They produce stuff and they say, yeah, this is our stuff. It's an Australian movie. It's Australian actors. We have industry here. We're doing our thing. So just a quick shout out to Australia and for them, taking the reins of their own entertainment.
I hear what you're saying. I definitely appreciate it. It's not everything revolves around Hollywood and American made entertainment. It's refreshing to watch these foreign films, whether it be Australia or from India or from South Korea. It's a nice fresh take on the situation. And like we touched upon, the sense of humor is unique to that culture and what those filmmakers would find funny. But at the same time, it is very relatable. It's not super foreign to us because we can laugh at people falling down. We can laugh at sarcastic stuff. We can laugh at dry humor. And as far as going out there and making your own products and making your own entertainment, I think it's great. And I think this movie did play a part in Nicole Kidman's success as an actor because she got a job because of this movie. And I was laughing because I was reading stuff about the reviews back then, and it said, there's a actor named Nicole Kidman who is rather good. Fast forward to now. Yeah, she's rather good. She's super successful. I think it's important. Hey, other countries, if you can make movies, if you have the capability and you're funny and you can throw together a good action scene, you should do it because there's no reason not to. Way to go for the folks down under. We salute you.
All right, James, that's all I had. So is it time for some mini pops?
Oh, Nick, it's time for mini pops. Here comes our mini awards, building up to our end of the year super final fantastic awards. This is the part of the episode where we decide what was the best, what was the worst of the movie, starting out with our favorite topic, the best weapon. No, not every movie is violent and has a weapon or fighters in it, but guess what? We're making everybody be a best fighter, have a best weapon. And Nick, I have an answer. Do you have an answer for the best weapon in this movie?
I think I have an answer.
Hit me. What do you got?
It's between the all-purpose flour that was wielded by the army of BMX children, or it's the wooden crates, because those were pretty effective at keeping those guys down in the water.
I mean, yeah, those two things definitely did some damage. Wooden crates definitely did more damage. Flour was quite the distraction. But Nick, I'm going to nominate the perfect idea for the best weapon of BMX Bandits, and that's going to be the BMX bicycle, because Mustache took a BMX wheel to the chest and it knocked him out. And then once he was on the ground, all those the horde of hundreds of kids were just running him over with the BMX bikes. And I'm thinking, this guy's getting fucked up by bikes. The crates, yeah, caused some scrambled eggs brain damage. But what I would nominate is the BMX bikes as the objects that offered the most physical harm at the end of the day. And a lot of shenanigans with causing destruction throughout the town of Manly.
I'm down for BMX bikes.
Let's do it. Sticking with violence, who do you think is the best fighter of this movie?
I think it's Judy. I think she's the only one who
It's
really
Judy.
fights back on anything.
It's Judy.
Really does anything confrontational.
She punches one of the thugs in the cemetery, debilitates him. She elbowed Mustache and then shoved both Mustache and Whitey down to the ground in the boat shack. She's hella fast. She outran the goons at the marina. and she was keeping pace with PJ and Goose as they were on their bikes, and she's on foot. And then she, at the end of the movie, she body slams Whitey over that trunk of guns and hucks the keys off so that they don't have access to firearms. So I think it's clearly Judy from this movie. Didn't think it was, but it is.
I couldn't agree more. And James, I'm going down with the clean sweep because I'm going to nominate her as well for the MVC, the most valuable character of this movie.
For obvious reasons?
For everything we just stated above. She's the only one who's a badass. I mean, they need, when PJ and Goose need to go get another walkie-talkie for the creep, who's always going off by herself on these little adventures? She got fired, didn't skip a beat. Still got herself her BMX bike, turns into a badass on the BMX bike.
Super sick. Hot dogging.
Yeah, it's Judy for me. What about you?
Most valuable characters. That's what I'm going to go with this week. I'm going to hand the accolade off to Whitey and Mustache as a duo because I thought they handed us the most comedic elements of the film. I think without them, the movie doesn't quite work because they did such a good job of being those clumsy, goofy henchmen, not making it super cheesy that I'm out, but just delivering the right amount of cheese level to help me believe that these guys are truly capable. However, at the same time, they are also incapable of doing their job. So I think Whitey and Mustache deserve some love there.
You know what? I was thinking of, our heroes, but I wasn't even thinking Whitey and Mustache, but you're 100% correct. Their relationship and their jackassery while chasing around the kids is really makes this movie. I'm into it.
What's not going to make this movie is the biggest piece of shit character, Nick. Who do you have nominated? I'm curious.
I wasn't sure on this one, but then you brought up the grocery store owner / manager. That's a pretty big piece of shit move. Second is the lady listening in on the radio broadcast. Because she's weird, dude. And she's getting all horny listening to kids talk. I don't like that.
It's weird. Horny cop lady is not going to be memorable at the end of the day. Store manager is not really going to be memorable at the end of the day. But you know who is going to be memorable at the end of the day? The creep. I think
I was thinking about that.
Despite getting shafted a whole bunch with his ice cream, I think he's still a big piece of shit because I almost called him the most important character of the movie because he does cause Judy to run into Goose and PJ with the shopping cart situation. But it was really just that beginning scene where he shoved the carts not only once, but twice. And he says, "What you doing out here working so hard?" And Judy says, "Well, I got to work so I can buy a bike. It won't just magically appear in front of my face." And then he goes to say, "Mine did. And I even asked my parents to give it to me before my birthday." Harry Potter. What's the dipshit family?
Oh, his cousin?
The Dudleys. Yeah. He was big Dudley energy, the big Dudley cousin over there. So I thought, you know what? You're iconic enough to be a big turd. And I feel comfortable having you be the biggest piece of shit of this movie.
I was trying to think of a way to fit in.
Costumes were crazy. Like the stripes and the overalls, purple and yellow and greens. Hell yeah.
I was trying to find a way to fit the creep into our post awards. And
we found it.
Thank you for making the argument because I'll agree with that. Sticking with the negative energy here. What would you nominate for your worst scene?
The graveyard scene. It was over 10 minutes long. It really was a slug in the operation. It did not need to be that long. It would have been great if it was part of a horror movie, an 80s kids campy horror movie. But I just felt like it really slowed down the energy of the movie because we're in this summer, bright blue skies. People are wearing shorts. There's ladies wearing just like shorts and it's vibrant pinks and yellows and kids are working summer jobs. It's a whole summer vibe. And the graveyard scene just really slowed it down, brought it to a different energy, an energy I don't mind in other settings, but I just thought it went on way too long. It was rainy. It was stormy. It was unnecessary at the end of the day because they outrun the bad guys and the bad guys chase them around a graveyard and then don't even apprehend them. The only thing we learned was that Goose has the hots for Judy and that lady cop was a perv. How about you, buddy?
Goose having the hots for Judy does not play into. There's no tension or love story that's happening between the crew for the rest of the movie.
It doesn't, yeah, there's nothing that happens beyond that in the movie.
Yeah, well, I was going to get a little more specific. It's within the graveyard scene, but it is that Goose and Judy scene with the open eyes kiss and the saying that he likes her and has the hots for her, because that also has the lady cop listening in and being all weird about it. And there was no love story throughout this entire movie, and they just added that in randomly in the middle of this graveyard
Just
scene.
thrown in,
So
just thrown in the middle of the movie.
we hate forced scenes. We hate especially forced quote unquote love scenes or romantic scenes. And we especially hate scenes that bring something up that doesn't pay off anywhere else in the film. That hit the trifecta for us, or for me at least. So for me, that's the worst scene.
All right, next. So that's the worst. Let's bring it to the best. What do you have for the best scene in this movie?
Best scene for me, and honestly, this may not be the quote unquote best scene, may not be done the best, but it was my favorite. So I'm going to go with that. I really liked the dock scene when Whitey and Mustache were first confronting Judy when she was getting that second walkie-talkie for the creep. And it's the classic walkie-talkie confusion with the crane operator. I was sitting there, I was giggling. It was right up my alley. It was a good, different kind of comedy. It was a good physical comedy bit. And I really enjoyed it. I wasn't expecting it. And it was really random. I love random comedy. Just some random crane operator catching the frequency of the walkie-talkies and car exploding and buildings getting knocked down. And it really tickled me. I will remember that scene from this movie.
I love it. Well, my best scene I'm going to nominate is going to be essentially a summary of what we see throughout the entire movie, which is chase scenes and physical gags. I'm picking the creep ice cream chase down scene where PJ and Goose are trying to get to Judy and save her, and they're on a mission, and they take the time out of their day to swoop the 2 ice cream cones out of the creep's hands, eat the ice cream, throw them on the ground, and the creep is just behind them going, "My ice cream!" It's satisfying because this guy sucks, so it's nice to see him lose. And we get into the shenanigans without overdoing it. So I'm gonna say that's the best scene because it pretty much encapsulates everything that is great about this movie.
He also had he fell down that first time, and then when we see him again, he resets to being 20 feet behind him. So apparently he's a faster BMXer than PJ and Goose because he caught up to these dudes.
He's a resetter. He's crazy. Well, Nick, let's wrap up our sentiments of talking points, plot talk, nitpicks with a sarcastic selling point. I'll go first. This is Teens on Bikes meets The Three Stooges.
Yeah, I just said shenanigans on bikes because that's really what this movie is.
Not much to it.
Final review. Fight.
Let's see what the other guys are saying. In our final review, we're going to start out with Rotten Tomatoes. 67% of the critics thought that this was a 70% movie.
Which I was a little surprised by for a movie like this to get a 67 from the critics.
Majority vote, but all right.
Yeah, it's certified fresh. The people, a little lower, have it at a 54%.
So I think that's a spilled popcorn bucket. We're going to move over to the critics of Metacritic. The average critic reviews ever since the inception of this film, very similar to the crowd of Rotten Tomatoes, sitting at a 53, which is a 5.3 on our popcorn scale.
And the people might have liked it, might not have liked it, but there's not enough reviews for the people of Metacritic to have a score. So that is just an NA.
And now our Walkie Cash, Whitey Stash, BMXin', Car Rexin', Obvious Stunt Double and a Wig Score, brought to you by All Purpose Flour from IMDb, a 5.5. Nick, we are just like PJ and Goose, riding side by side, riding our bikes backwards, doing some sick tricks like some obvious stunt doubles. That's what the other people are saying. Now it's time to get to what we're saying, what we think, with our laughable log lines, our popcorn points, and final thoughts on this movie. Nick, you are up first. Hit me.
My laughable log line is Three teens with bikes steal walkie-talkies and get chased. It's a 6.1 from me, actually. This is enjoyable. This is unseasoned, but fresh popped popcorn. Had some great comedic elements. It was a really fun watch. As we stated in the talking points there, I think that it set out what it was trying to do, right? It was trying to make this comedic movie for kids with some action, tried to relate to the kids with the BMX bikes. It loses points for lack of story. Characters aren't really developing too much. The chase scenes get a little old. It's a little repetitive in places, and it wraps up a little too quick for me. But, for the fun and enjoyment and entertainment value of this, I think it's right there. I think it's a 6.1. I don't think it deserves to be worse than that. And yeah, there's not much to this movie, and there's not much to my wrap up other than to say I had a fun time watching it.
Spoiler alert, I'm going to be very similar because my laughable log line is going to be 3 teenage BMX riders pawn off stolen walkie-talkies from bank robbers. And Nick, I'm going to hit this with a flat 6. This is 6.0. I was almost floating pretty low here because I thought, the story, there's no character development. We struggle with this all the time. You rate it for what it is. Do you rate it versus every other movie in the world and how they stack up? We become a little bit more lenient with filmmakers that set out to do specific things versus those who overstep their boundaries and put a little bit too much creative license, or even worse, abuse into the treatment of the property that they are crafting on film, and that we're paying money to go to the movie theaters, or we're paying money these days to rent on Apple TV or Amazon or however we're watching these movies. I think for this movie, I was kind of floating down as low as the 3s at some points because of the lack of story, because of the lack of characters. But I didn't think it really deserved that much hatred, because that is really dipping down to, I don't respect the filmmakers and what they set out to do, because I'm really trying to I'm trying to latch onto a score that justifies how much I despise the movie. And with this one, it's in line with a flubber. It's in line with a big fat liar. It's a kid's movie that's full of gags, a lot of overused gags, I'll say. And the acting's nothing really to remember, because Nicole Kidman's running laps around James Lugton and our boy Angelo D'Angelo. They are very monotone. Their deliveries are not sick with it. And Nicole Kidman is the standout child actor in this movie. And like our most valuable characters, David Argue, John Lay, I think they're pulling weight as far as the physical comedy elements of the movie. Nothing really special here. Not much to my wrap up either. This movie is what it is. It does deliver on that 80s synth and cheese and cornballness and costumes and just what I'm looking for in a nostalgic 80s comedy action movie. And it wasn't offensive, and I enjoyed watching it despite it not really meaning much at the end of the day.
Yeah, and for reference, that puts our average score at a 6.05. It's just a touch under Flubber at 6.4, and I think these are some pretty comparable movies, so I could live with that.
I think I can too. All right, well, hey, that's BMX Bandits. Threw this on the docket because it was obscure, low budget, and had Nicole Kidman in it. And you know what? I think at the end of the day, I can say it did not 100% disappoint, and I'm glad I watched it. So, Nick, I appreciate you watching this with me and talking about it and how ridiculous it was. And we appreciate you guys listening to us. Please continue to listen. Please follow us on socials. We are on Instagram. We are on YouTube at Just Play It Podcast. We are on Twitter. We are on X at Just Play It Pod. And you're going to want to join us next time, because we are hitting a legendary movie that may or may not be coming up on its 85th anniversary of a release date. Nick?
If you follow this road that we've laid out for you, I think you might be able to figure out what it is.
That's that. And remember, whether you're pawning off walkie-talkies or you're pulling some sick BMX moves, just remember to throw out some BMX slang. And if you're a horny cop lady, you might pick up on that. And I don't really know where I'm going with this one, but that's our show. Thanks for joining, everybody. We'll see you next time. Well, Judy's kind of the most manly out of all of them because she's throwing crates at bitches.
All right, back to the car.
45